What a wonderful time to be alive and to have a privilege to learn today. I welcome you to class. Today we shall be looking at the definition of government. As we all know that the government has been defined from three perspectives. So we'll look at the three perspectives critically and we analyze them one after the other. Let's go. Government as an institution of the states. Government as an institution of the states. Now, an institution could be referred to as a machinery that is responsible for formulating, expressing, and attaining the will of the states. The machinery responsible for formulating, expressing, and attaining the will of the states. In this regard, we are actually talking about the three organs of government. They are responsible for formulating, and expressing, and attaining the will of the states. Let's take, for example, the legislature is in charge of lawmaking, while the executive is in charge of executing the law, while the judiciary is in charge of interpreting the law and also punishing the offenders of the law. Punishing the offenders of the law. Also, let's talk about the government as a process or art of governing. Government as a process or art of governing. Now we can say this is the sum total process of administration. When we say sum total, we're talking about what is being done day in, day out. Let's say, for example, planning, the planning of what to do about the states, how to organize the states, how to put the states in order, has to do with what is carried out day in, day out. And that's what we call that process an art. Art. What you do day in, day out. So in government, we talk about what we do day in, day out. As a matter of fact, government is everywhere. In the family, there is a government. In the church, there is a government. In the mosque, there is a government. Government takes place everywhere. The head of the family will plan on how to execute, how to plan the finances of the family, how to generate resources for the family. And at the same time, the mother of the house, which the wife of the house, will also plan on how to, the mother of the house will think on how to make sure that the resources within their reach is prudently used. So in this regard, we say that government is what we do in, day out. Day in, day out. So that we regard it as an art or process of governing. Lastly, government as an academic field of study. Government as an academic field of study. Now we all know that in all levels of education, primary, secondary, post-primary, post-secondary, we all engage in studying the art of governing. And when we engage in studying the art of governing, what we are doing is that we are studying government. In primary school, the pupils engage in studying civic education. And see, in civic education, they learn the art of governing. In secondary school, we do civic education, social studies, and in senior secondary school, we do government. In this regard, we are learning about government. In our institution, people engage in different courses: law, political science, public administration, and what have you. In this regard, what we are doing is that we are studying the government, the state and its institutions, the state and its institutions, how policies are made, how policies are executed, and how the laws that regulate us are made. So in this regard, we are studying government. Why do people study government? Why do we study government? Now, the knowledge of government will help us to understand the learning about the process of governance. We learn about the process of governance. We begin to understand, this is how governance is being carried out. Also, it gives us to know the privilege, it gives us the privilege to know our rights and obligations. Our rights and obligations. Now through the study of government, we become responsible citizens. We become responsible citizens. Also, the study of government enables individuals to take active part in good governance. Now that they have known what to do when they go to government, that will make them to take active part in governance. Also, it helps us in understanding the state, how it is governed, and as well the responsibility of those who govern the state. Also, it helps to broaden our knowledge of local and international affairs. It broadens our knowledge about local and international affairs. So let's quickly look at the characteristics of government. Number one characteristic of government is law. There is no society where there is no law. As a matter of fact, when there is no law, there will be anarchy, a state of lawlessness. But in a state where we have law, the people will know what they are expected to do. They will not take laws into their own hands. So law is one of the characteristics of government. We also talk about political power. People who are voted into governmental office, they have political power to carry out certain things. Someone who has political power has the power to do certain things which you cannot question him on. Let's say, for example, the governor of the state can actually declare that due to particular situation, people within the state should not go out. He has the political power to do that. Let's say, for example, if there is war in a particular state, the government could declare that there is a state of emergency, that people should not go out. He has the political power to do that. Also, revenue. The running of the government has to be with money. So government will look in how to generate revenue and how to spend the revenue that has been generated. We also talk about personnel. Personnel has to do with people who regulate, who are in the ends of affairs of the state. Talk about social services. Government ensure that to make life comfortable for the people, to provide social services, hospital, good road, education, and what have you. We also talk about public support. There cannot be government when the public is not in support. So public support is one of the characteristics of government. And lastly, periodic change. One characteristic about government is that government is not permanent. Especially in democracy, government changes every 4 years. So there is periodic change as one of the characteristics of government. There are so many things to learn, but in our subsequent classes, we shall be learning more about the concept of government. Thank you. See you next time.